Welcome back. It's still the morning brief right here on Channels Television, your perfect morning starter. And we're staying somewhat with the state of nation. Aviation is a critical part of the state of nation. And so we'll look at all of the issues affecting aviation holistically. And joining us this morning to discuss this is Professor Obiora Okonkwo. He is the Chairman, United Nigeria Airlines Limited. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Founder and CEO, rather, United Nigeria Airlines. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And so let's start with what seems to be uppermost in the minds of Nigerians, especially at this critical time. It's the Yuletide. Many Nigerians want to go home, travel, to be with their loved ones. As a matter of fact, many more are coming from the diaspora, and we've seen those images. And so it is a time somewhat of abundance for your sector. But Nigerians seem to be paying, through their nose in order to be able to enjoy the Yuletide. And this is contributed, if you like, by the insecurity on the road. And so road travel seems not to be an option. So the perception is that the airlines are taking advantage of this situation to sort of practice price gouging. Is that the case?
Definitely not the case. It's a special time of the year that you have a spike in the number of people that travel. It has always been like that, even when the roads were secured. And in other parts of the world, cast your mind back a few weeks ago in the U.S., you had the Thanksgiving week. The roads in the U.S. are perfect, security is there, but the airports were filled up with people, and there were some good number of stress, both on the operators and the travelers. So it comes with that during this season. And obviously, the airlines prepare for this as much as they could, having serviceable aircraft, having good schedule to accommodate good number of passengers. But the issue of pricing, as a matter of fact, I know has been the hottest topic in the recent time, but they're not doing anything unusual, because what I've seen circulating around in most of the social media platforms are the highest type of the ticket. In any ticket you pay 400,000 naira. In that aircraft, there is also a seat that you would have paid 100,000 naira. And when you think about a ticket at 400,000 naira for that individual person holding the highest class of that ticket, for an airline at the end of the day, we might be looking at a yield of 120,000, 150,000 naira. Because in aviation, there is a formula, there is a pattern in which the fares are determined. You have different classes, you have low, middle, and so on and so forth. You might have about 6 classes of ticket, even in an economy cabin. So at the end of the day, we make a yield. You put it all together and divide it by number of the seats in the aircraft, including even vacant seats. So for that ticket, you are talking about 400,000 naira. At the end of the day, we might have sold a seat for 150,000 naira. And there are minimum amount of ticket you have to sell in terms of number and in terms of cost to be able to break even. Because you still have to break even, you still have to be able to service the aircraft and meet all your obligations to be able to put out the aircraft there to be of service to people. So I really sympathize with Nigerians. Do not forget, once upon a time, tickets were sold at 20,000 naira, 30,000 naira, and at that point, it could have been about $200, $250, because of the exchange rate. Today, even at the highest fee, which you see in the economy, which is just 200-something thousand, is barely $200. So some of those tickets I see circulating, being sensationalized. They're actually not economy ticket. They're either business class ticket or premium economy ticket, which must have been bought on the day or a day of the travel. So I really sympathize with the people. We're not happy because tickets must be affordable to people. It's only when the tickets are affordable that will fill up the aircraft. For us, we want a filled up aircraft. We want to have 90% pax load, 95% pax load. That's when we're in business. That's the way the business works.
So one wonders why, even within Africa, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm saying even within Africa, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, it feels like our local transportation system, our local flight, seem relatively, whether it's Yuletide or no Yuletide, what season or no season, seems relatively more expensive than others. Why is that?
Sorry, you mean it's more expensive in Africa than where?
In some parts of Africa compared to Nigeria.
That's what I compare.
Yes, let's say South Africa and some other places in terms of local travel, when you consider the distance as well as the cost in terms of dollar terms.
Well, I don't know what rate you have, but I still think that even at that, traveling internally in Nigeria is the cheapest. We know the rates around the world. Any 1 hour flight you can make in any part of the world that is less than $100, you must have bought a ticket that is discounted, and then there must have been someone else in that aircraft who may have paid $1,000 for the same 1 hour flight. So you use it to compensate for your low ticket. So that's the way it works. So I really don't think that, and we operate the same aircraft that are not manufactured in Nigeria. We buy aircraft from the same market. We buy spare parts from the same market. The labor, the same amount of money we pay pilots, even if they are Nigerian pilots, it's the same amount you pay pilots in America. And you can see most of our aircraft also have expatriate pilots. So the cost of operation, even in Nigeria, is higher. And don't forget, 99.5% of every expenses in our operations, spare parts, maintenance, procurement of equipment, is all in dollars. But we still sell this ticket here in Nigeria and in Naira. And we have to convert it before we make our expenses. So it's really, and then our operational cost is enormous. We take loans at 30, 35%, as the case may be. And those countries they are referring to may be taking loans at 2%, 5% maximum. And then we also here pay a whole lot of taxes and fees that do not exist in any part of the world. So operational expenses is way higher, but still, for some reasons, we still charge low. I fly in most part of the world. I've made 45 minutes flight at $1,500. Multiply that internally, not even across the border. So I don't think that that's the case. So Nigeria remains the cheapest place in terms of airfare, but as a matter of fact, it is to the detriment of operators. We have had high mortality rates of airlines in the last few years. It is good that we understand this and know that everything has to be done to remove taxes, to remove levies, for the airlines to be marginally profit.
All right, we're going to look at your claim. I know you've traveled a lot. In fact, for the fact that you own an airline, we should take your word for it a lot, but we need to double check on the claim of Nigeria being the cheapest in terms of dollar terms. But where I'm going to with my question exactly is, the Minister of Aviation was called out to see what he can do. Members of the House of Representatives were concerned because if you check the flight, say, for tomorrow from your airline, maybe the cheapest may be 350,000. Then if you go way forward to like a week Christmas, it comes down to as low as 100 and something thousand naira. So time is important. But generally, what they were saying is that it's too expensive. And I think if I remember correctly, the aviation minister said, look, this sector is deregulated. There's really nothing he can do. So is it that there is really nothing he can do, or there are incentives that can come through for operators that can help, further scale down the price?
Oh, yes. It's a deregulated sector. Incentive definitely should not come in form of grant. We're not looking for grant. We don't want grant. We don't want government free money. But if taxes are removed, if levies are removed, if infrastructures are improved on, definitely it will reflect on the cost of the ticket, because for every single levy, for every extra tax, you pass it on to the passengers. Like I've said in one of my outings in this studio, we're just the cash cow, the ATM, and the source of money for every other aviation ecosystem. What the ground handlers charge, we collect. What NCA charge, we collect. Double taxes, double levies, they come through us, and it's passed on to the passengers. We want them all to be removed, because 80% of them do not exist in other part of the world. When that is done, definitely it will reflect. But however, when I talk about dollar terms, you know that the rate of Naira compared to dollar in the recent years have really been affected very, very seriously. So for that reason, when we convert our tickets, let's say for instance, a ticket of 100,000 Naira is less than barely $70. You can hardly make that flight in any part of the world. So we remain not necessarily the most expensive. But the question is this: most travelers who have the highest level of ticket now in some of the airlines, they buy their tickets late. Some people who had bought early may have paid really lower cost. And normally these areas you are referring to may be just about 10 to 15% of the seat in the aircraft. Half of that seat, really come a whole lot cheaper. I know, we try to be reactive and fire brigade kind of a thing in dealing with situations like this. I, as the spokesperson of Airline Operators of Nigeria, have been very vocal about this in the last months, that something must have to be done, and be done quickly. Otherwise, the passenger cannot afford to buy the tickets. And when they don't buy the tickets, it's not good for us. And when we don't fly, it's not good for the nation, it's not good for the economy. We should continue to see aviation beyond just taking you from one point to the other. It's a catalyst, it's an enabler. And most members we have do not just carry passengers. They operate in the oil sector, which is the most critical part of this economy. It's a very sensitive sector and must be given the attention that it deserves. We're asking for single-digit loan. We're not asking for free money or grants. We're asking that most of the taxes be removed. I tell you, for instance, some of these taxes have some historical perspective. Once upon a time in this country, we didn't have NCA, we didn't have FAN, we didn't have NAMA. What we had was FCA. FCA during Gowon imposed a 5% tax on passengers to raise within 5 years of funds to support the airport facilities. Later on, there was FAN and NAMA. This 5% remains with NCA. The idea is that NCA collects this money and then share with other agencies. Then these agencies, when they were introduced FAN, they continue to introduce their own fares. FAN introduces, NAMA introduces repetition upon repetition. So it's all multiple taxes and multiple levies. They do not exist. ICAO has rule of what must be charged and what must not be charged. IATA has said Nigeria is the most expensive place to operate. And at the end of the day, the operators are just are people that are being demonized, which really is quite unfortunate. But if you can imagine how much we work behind the scene to bring this to the notice of the government that this is no more tolerable to us. We care for the passengers, we worry about them, and we hope that these things will not continue.
It's a very interesting dynamic that plays out in the sector. So the operators say...
Hello, are you there? I lost you.
Can you hear me now? All right.
I cannot hear you.
Okay, I'm sure they will try to resolve that, but I was just referring to the interesting dynamic which is playing out in the industry, the sector. So we have the operators blaming the the operating environment in terms of economy, taxes, and all of that. So they say, well, it is really tough to operate, and that's why you see the fares going up, right, the way they are. But then you listen to the, well, those who fly, that's you and I, because I know you also fly as well, and they always say, well, it is the operators, really, they think that the operators can do better in terms of pricing, and of course, the overall performance, whether the flight leaves on time, the quality of service they get, just how responsive, the operators are. And then it's almost like a feedback loop. One is blaming the other is blaming the other, and it keeps going round. Of course, the regulator also takes its own flag. But ultimately, they say customer is king. And I really hope you can hear me now, because I'm getting to the meat of my question. I want you to speak to the challenge around flight delays. Flight delays by domestic airlines is a major issue. The recent NCA summary of flight operations 2024 revealed that almost half of domestic flights in Nigeria and about 40% of foreign flights were delayed. A lot of Nigerians will tell you they can almost wager that the flight they're about to take will be delayed, maybe 5 out of 10 times, some even more. Once they see the airline, they go, oh gosh, it is plus 2 hours or thereabout. So maybe from an operator's point of view, why do we keep having the issues of delays? Because people have planned their businesses based on the travel schedule that was given to them that they paid for. So a contract has been entered into, but time and again, there's a reneging of the contract on the side of the operators.
Take flight delays in airline operation could happen for different reasons. For want of time, and with a special focus on Nigeria, I can tell you that today we have 2 hubs, main hubs in Nigeria, which is Lagos and Abuja. United Nigeria and many other airlines operate out of MMA2 in Lagos. In the morning, you may have about 10 airlines, or 7 or 8 as the case may be, boarding about 15 aircraft to different destinations. All these airlines had scheduled their first flight between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. And they know the reason? There is Sunset and Sunrise Airport. You couldn't have boarded before 6:30. So for that reason, you have congestion. I can tell you that on my way to this place, we had about 5 flights leaving MMA2 scheduled for 6:30. By 7:30, they had not taken off. This morning as we speak on my way. You know why? The conveyor belt in MMA2 stopped working.
Oh dear.
Conveyor belt.
Wow.
Stopped working. If you have, I can send you the video I got out of it.
Wow.
I don't know if you can hear me because I'm out
yes, loud and clear. So and we can relate with this. A lot of us have seen those conveyor belts.
The conveyor belt was not working. The conveyor belt stopped working, and then the congestion, boarding congestion at that airport is enormous. So we're talking about a situation where you have all your aircraft are serviceable. Your staff had come to work by 4 a.m. Your crew had sat at the aircraft ready to take off by 5:30. So when you had finished with the problem of the conveyor belt, which will harden the process of checking in, then you go to the boarding gate. All these aircraft, all these passengers from different airlines are crowded in 1 or 2 boarding gates. That's another 1 hour. When they finish the boarding gate, they have to come and wait for the limited resources of the vehicle that will take them to their different aircraft. So when you had finished boarding, assuming you are lucky to escape this after 1 hour, 1.5, then your aircraft is blocked by so many other aircraft because the space available is very small. You have to wait for them to clear this aircraft. So if they have to clear 10 aircraft at the same time, They might have about 2, 3 pull-back equipment to do that. Then you have to queue. And by the time you queue, these aircraft now have to be given takeoff approval by the tower. Then you queue 10, 15 aircraft behind. So we're talking about these 2 hours. By the time you finish, you are already 2 hours behind schedule. And these 2 hours behind schedule accumulated down the day could get to 3 hours. That could be one of the reasons. Obviously, there may be other occasions that these things are also from the operator. It's not 100% operator. I mean, or 100% the other cases. But I can tell you that from our own records, it could be operator 5%. And the reason is simple. Unless there is an AOG, that means that your aircraft cannot fly. You have to offer some maintenance or verification, which is inevitable. That is done because of safety. Regulation in Nigeria is very tough, and we don't have any complaint about that. You must clear that fault before you fly. Apart from that, the only reason you are in the business is to fly. It's not to sell tickets, because when passengers buy their ticket, they could still not fly and they have the right to get their refunds. It's only when you fly. And the only inventory, the only product we have in the whole business of aviation is to sell tickets. Unless we are doing cargo, we don't do cargo, we are commercial flights. So I can tell you that it is to desire and interest of any operator to fly on time.
If I can just, pardon me, quickly come in. So the question then will be, the customers have a right to demand a refund. But too many times, that's very tough.
Well, yeah, so basically, delays are not peculiar to Nigeria. So that's why some of the benefits to the customer when delays are done are articulated, and the rule we apply is worldwide rule. Customers have right to demand for refunds if they are refundable tickets, because some tickets have conditions that are not refundable. And there are some also indications in some of the contract agreement for ticket sales that you have to wait for 1 week, 2 weeks, depending on different company policies. But I can tell you that more often than not, some of the customers do buy their tickets through agents or through other third parties. And the rule of refund is that you must only refund the money to the account that paid the money. So sometimes when there are issues, some customers will want to walk up to the counter and want their money back because the ticket is on their name and they have identification for themselves. But what normally applies is that it should be returned to the account that made the payment. So I really think that NCA is very strict on refund. Most of the airlines I know take refund very, very seriously. And it's the right of the customers to get their refund. So if any customer is refusing refund and there is no contract in the ticket sale that says it's not refundable, because some tickets are not refundable, they might look attractive in the rate, but you know, it's not a Nigerian thing, it's a worldwide thing. I bought tickets overseas that the price is cheap.
Right.
I also like, I know that a fair deal ticket, and the risk is that you can't get a refund if you don't fly.
All right. Some of your explanations do provide clarification on the operational challenges of the airline operators, and we do appreciate some of them. But Kaide's follow-up question is quite crucial, because when customers are made to wait a whole 2 hours after, you know, what was stated in the time of departure on a flight ticket, I believe there's a component that also talks about some form of compensation, refreshments for the customers while they wait. But that has not been the reality, and I hope that these conversations are had between the regulators and the operators, such that, you know, operations in Nigeria's aviation sector will be in line with international best practices, because we do fly in other countries, and delays of 2 hours are alien to the culture of flying in other countries. But in Nigeria, it appears as if we have settled with mediocrity. And, that really, begs the question. But speak to another matter that has to do with operational challenges. In the last, 1 year or so, we've had flights skidding off the runway, making emergency landing. The regulator has had cause, to wield the big stick on some airlines, and another has been brought to that now growing list. The Cessna aircrafts that crash landed in, I believe, Imo. It was headed for Port Harcourt from Kaduna. Some would say that some runways are not suited for emergency landing. Is this part of the operational challenges? Is it, the regulator that should, take the blame for this, or a big question should be asked about the practices of airlines in terms of checking to be sure that their aircraft, have the integrity to fly?
Thank you very much. Before I go into that, I want to dwell a little bit on the compensation. Yes, there are rules that are applied all over the world that a certain period of delay, 2 hours, you get this, 3 hours, you get that, and so on and so forth. It's a worldwide rule. But I can tell you that so far it's a worldwide rule, delay applies in other parts of the world. But what we do get here is that in those parts of the world, passengers behave in a very civilized way because they can only apply their rights legally. But here in Nigeria, we do have unruly passengers. That's not fair. It doesn't help any situation. So I'm using this opportunity to apply to people. If you are delayed, it's unfortunate. It could be for different reasons. No matter what that reason is, we are expected only to be very, very civilized in our behavior. In fact, it's so serious that in other parts of the world, any infraction at the airport is treated as terrorism, no matter how minor it is, because that's where life of people are at stake. So we need to also address that, maybe take another time to do, because it's becoming increasingly intolerable for the operators and the workers. As of the other issue, I can tell you that Nigeria is one country that has the least incidents of airline-related matter. I can tell you that, and it has to do with kudos to NCA and other regulatory agencies, because we are regulated more than any other country in the world. I can tell you that. So our incidents are very minor. Issue of incursion, runway incursion, is very, very common. As a matter of fact, that's why in any of the runway, at the other end of it, the pattern of building it that is muddy. It's muddy. That's why sometimes when it skips out of the runway, it ends up in a muddy environment. It's built specially because it's anticipated any part of the world. It could be for one reason or that. It's so minor that it should not be anything for worry. Yes, could we have had a better infrastructure? Yes. But I don't think that has to do with that. Mostly, I've had cases where there were incursions because there were water logs on the runway. That's unacceptable. I think that a better runway and other airport infrastructure could have actually helped in every situation. But as far as Nigeria is concerned, safety is topmost in the minds of the operators, because we, the operators, in the last few days, I've flown my aircraft every day. And when I get to the airport and I don't have a convenient schedule, I jump into the next available operator and the airline and fly. So we want hostels to leave. And don't forget, we have pilots and cabin crew and engineers who are also on board. They want to leave. So I really think that it's something that Nigerians should also be happy about, because we've had very little aircraft falling off the sky. But however, everything that is being done is to mitigate the possibility of that happening. But the rest, obviously, will continue to count on God to protect. But everything is done 99% humanly, to mitigate the incident. But it does still happen. But we are lucky here it hasn't happened that much here.
All right. We must anchor at...
so when people are traveling, sorry, when people are traveling, it's good to get there timely. But please let us know that in aviation all over the world, the priority thing is safety. Get there safely.
All right.
And that's what, by grace of God, will guarantee Nigerian travelers.
All right. We must anchor at this point, and thank you very much, sir. But I must quickly add that I've had the privilege of flying in this country a number of times, and the privilege also of flying with some very decorous passengers, and 99% of the time of those flight opportunities, we've never been compensated for the delay of our flights. So we just wanted to put that through to you, sir, since you head the airline operators, such that those conversations will be had. Professor Obiora Okonkwo is the founder, CEO, United Nigeria Airlines. Thank you so much, sir, for coming through on this conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
There's more to come on the program. After the break, it will be time to talk a bit of politics. So stay with us. We'll be right back.